Good afternoon, everybody. For those of you who do not know, my name is Brendan Bolson, and I live in the Shorecliff neighborhood in Greece, New York. As always, this message is for the Shorecliff neighborhood Facebook group, the LSFSA Unified Neighborhood Group, for Ryan Murphy's Town of Greece Uncovered, as well as every other neighborhood in the town of Greece. For those of you in Monroe County who want to know what has happened here, and those of you in New York State who would like to know what has happened here. This is going to be a longer video than I normally do, and that's because there's a lot to cover. I want to do a recap of the situation that we've been facing here for the past year. And I'm going to also address the vote coming up for our town November 4th and the candidates that will be running for that and who we support. When I started doing these videos, I had in mind very much what President Roosevelt had done with his fireside chats. I don't really like doing pre-printed text, planned out things. So what I've compromised on is bullet points, so I don't forget things. When this all started, nearly a year ago in November, when my wife and I suspected that there was contamination behind our neighborhood because of a proposed senior living center being built right off the side of our neighborhood, realizing how close Odenbach was, and then finding visual evidence, I would say, that led to our discovery of actual contamination back there. We were told that there were people behind the scenes in both local, county, and state government helping us. I don't know if you'd call them deep state, but maybe they were people who didn't want to have their names assigned to our quest to protect this neighborhood. I can't imagine why any elected official would try to hide the fact that contamination has spread, especially when over this year we have discovered that yes, it has spread. To even have their released paperwork and that they hired people to go out there and test show that chemicals from Odenbach had spread. Don't let me get ahead of myself here. That's what I'm doing. First of all, I would like to thank those that I do know their names, who have been with us along this journey. I would like to thank my family. I would like to thank Casey's family. I would have, of course, Casey, my wife. We wouldn't have been able to do any of this if we had not gone through the stresses and the research to get to where we are today on this topic and to fight for the testing that we need. I would like to thank our neighborhood committee, Anne Marie, Steve, Betty, and Susie. I would like to thank our neighborhood who has stood behind us on this, as well as the extended Shorecliff neighborhood and Island Cottage neighborhood. I would like to thank Ryan and Beth Murphy. They already have so much on their plate, and yet they saw that we were suffering too. Ryan came to those meetings with us as well, and I believe that we now have a good friendship out of this. And Megan Farah, who was on school board, who took the time to come out multiple times and see what was going on. Megan is now the vice chair of the Greece Republican Committee, and I think she will do good as she works her way up. I'd like to thank Christian Garzone from Channel 13 News. All we wanted was a fair shake and truthful news on what we were doing, and I believe he's done that. If anyone else is in a similar situation, or you need to report something, Christian is 100% true blue American. He is truthful. He is great. Our neighborhood attorney, Henry Stewart, the years of experience that he brought to the table, and with him and Casey working on research and putting things together, amazing, amazing stuff. And just the fact that Henry was willing to take this on when so many other attorneys we contacted in the first place, even out of town, nearly out of state, didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. What does that tell you about the power of Greece? They say you can't fight City Hall. Well, I can most certainly tell you and give you hope that you can fight Town Hall. It just costs a lot of money. I'd like to thank Don Riley. I'd like to thank Ed Riley. I would like to thank Doug Dobson. I would like to thank Marilyn Philippone Crumlish and Ivana Castillo. Sorry, Ivana. I'd like to also thank Francis at Get Mad Radio. Without all of your support, without your ear, without you willing to fulfill FOIL requests, we'd be held up a lot more as to where we are now. Where are we now? We're always getting somewhere, but then there's always something else, another distraction. But let's move on to what's going on at Island Cottage. This last board meeting didn't cover much, and I have a theory, and I think it's because of the elections coming up. I could be wrong. I believe the vote to move the property at Island Cottage to Munipro and then inevitably to Vasile or Penn Senior Apartments will probably happen in November. And the reason being, it is such a controversial topic now with the contamination. Anybody running doesn't want that to be a question. And of course, if they voted for it this month, it could affect the votes in November. Prove me wrong. Ryan did something amazing for us. A few months back, he went around to all of the candidates and incumbents who were running again this time and had them sign a pledge to pause and test. The people who signed this were current town board member and town supervisor candidate William Murphy, Bill, current county deputy executive and town supervisor candidate Jeffrey McCann, Ward 3 candidate for board Amaret Miller, Ward 1 candidate David DePonzio, Ward 2 candidate Jim Leary, Ward 2 candidate Spencer Bernard, and Ward 4 candidate Rick Antelli Jr. What this basically says is to run thorough testing. In our case, it meant installing wells on the property. It picks up liquids, vapors, and to run that for 6 months in a wet season, which would basically mean next spring. Obviously, we had a very, very dry summer. And we would find out that, what was it, 130 some years since we've had one this dry? The town released that they had run a set of tests on the wells and found nothing to worry about. None of the TCE we were looking for. We obviously need a hydrology report on how water flows between Odenbach, the state land, and this town land that was an orchard to actually see how the water moves. We know we have flooding throughout this whole neighborhood. To my knowledge, and from my neighborhood who also checks in, and we check in, hell, we even have a drone now to check in, so we don't have to leave our house. There's only been one set of tests run over there to get that result of saying there's nothing. What's more, the town released their findings to say, nothing. But there is. And there's more chemicals in this that we weren't even looking for. We have solvents. We don't know where those came from. But the important part, when they say no chemicals from Odenbach showed up on that property, they're ignoring the fact that they found acetone, toluene, and benzene. These are all things that are indeed found in Odenbach. Obviously meaning we need more investigation before anything is considered on that property. There was a summary at the end of all this. My wife wrote this up. And the summary was, the town is relying on narrow, incomplete testing with questionable quality control to claim no risk. DEC statements, or what the town presented as DEC statements, contradict the DEC's own published reports. And we cited the reports in this. You can go back and find them. But as you know, there is a Google document Casey made with all of our research in it. Not only did we provide it to the town, it is freely available for anyone who would like to take a look at this rabbit hole of hell. The seeker negative declaration is out of date and must be amended to reflect new detections and flood plan hydrology. Yes, of course, you need to see where that water's running, because we're not always prohibitively dry over here. In fact, for years, my wife has made videos on YouTube of the flooding we get down our street here, sometimes nearly knee deep. And that goes all the way over to the properties there as well. Development in a known groundwater migration zone without mitigation-ready design puts seniors at risk. Of course it does. Of course it does. I forgot to thank someone else on here too. Laura DeConnick, absolutely amazing, has come and stood behind me when I've been speaking and has had her own things to say on this whole thing. She's a registered nurse. She knows what these chemicals can do. Bear with me, I also have coffee with me, and worst case scenario, I don't normally smoke in my house, but, well, aside from my rec room, and that's separated, but yeah, I got cigarettes here in case I need them. Once again, there's a lot to cover. So yeah, we need more testing. Nothing should be built over there. It's too much of a risk. And if Vasile, if Ken hasn't backed out by now, I don't know what he's thinking. There is so much question of what's going on over here. Nobody is going to want to buy in or move into those. Would you? That's a big question. It's a question we ask the board members as well as Bill Reilich. Would you move over here? Knowing what we know? The documents were all there for anyone to see. All the way back to, well, like I said, Don Riley. Don Riley and I had a discussion. They've known for forever that this is a problematic area due to Odenbach. Okay, where to go next? We have a vote coming up November 4th. There's a lot of questions of how do we turn our town around? How do we not make front headlines constantly? Not good headlines. Supervisor Bill Rylick has been at some form of power in our county and town for at least the last 40 years, if not longer. He has run his campaigns and his power with an iron fist. It's always been said, do not cross Rylick. And don't get me wrong, when I first went up there to talk to him, I wasn't thrilled about it either. It's something I've talked to candidates about, talked to Ryan about. It's like, do you know what the regular folks and residents of Greece have to say about Bill Rylick, even before this stuff came out? He has had power. He has had the ability to make or break people. And this stuff that's made the news with the lawsuits and the tracking devices, it makes you wonder when he got off track, when he let his guard down. I don't think he ever thought that there'd be this much snowballing back on him. And it's kind of funny, when the Michelle Marini thing happened, I have a sense of humor about things, and you have to, otherwise all this stuff will drive you absolutely bonkers. And we were doing an interview with Christian Garzone. This is quite a ways back. It was around the time that the Michelle Marini stuff was released to the news. I had made a statement that was going to be the outro to that news clip, and it didn't get aired. It was for time. There was a lot to put in, because if I remember right, there was a statement from the DEC. It took a long time to get there. The DEC really has not worked with us, and we communicate with them. They do not communicate back. It's a one-way path. But I had made a comment, and I think I ended it up as like, well, if Bill Rylick's feeling lonely, I'd be more than willing to go out and have a cup of coffee with him and talk with him. And that has really been what this whole situation has been. We have only wanted not just commiseration, but plans and help and answers. Not bad faith test results that negate themselves. It doesn't make sense. So we have a town that's riding off the rails and heading for the edge of a cliff. What do we do to fix it? Well, there's that saying, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. In my opinion right now, we most certainly have a town board that is controlled by Bill Rylick. And in the past year of going to these meetings, me and Ryan, other residents in my neighborhood committee, what we have seen is a chessboard being set up. No matter who the next town supervisor is, there are pieces who very well may be loyal to Bill Rylick that are being put on that chessboard. And they're being put there by extended employee contracts, renewals for 5, 6, 8 years. And I'm going to jump ahead of myself. This was a conversation I was having with Spencer Bernard at the Greece Republican picnic a little while back. You're going to have to go through all this stuff and figure out where those people are. And it's going to potentially cost taxpayer dollars to end these contracts and remove these people. Ideally, I would like to see some more youthful ideas at the town board. People talk about me being youthful. I'm 44 years old. I most certainly am not youthful, but it's a good start. I'm not saying I want town board at all. I'm not saying I want a government, well, environmental board. I would like to chair over there, but we'll get to that too. I think we have some candidates right now, both Democrat and Republican, that will give us that youthful mindset. New ideas, people who know newer tech and how to make this town run and work. Now, where do my allegiances lie? I, for my life, have been a registered Republican. My father-in-law refers to me as more of an Eisenhower Republican. Was he perfect? No. But he most certainly helped our country's infrastructure, as well as elaborated on the New Deal. The New Deal is why we are where we are today. You're looking at your interstate system. You're looking at so many programs to give people jobs and hope in a time coming out of wars. Wars always cost us, but they also inspire the economy. Probably why we have so many of them. I wish we wouldn't. I really want to see us invest in our communities. I want to see us invest in our education of our children. I want to see a Greece where our children don't have to leave to get a job. They can be right here. And I've always spoken about the big five that we've lost. For the most part, General Motors isn't what it was. Xerox, Kodak, Bausch and Lomb. The other one I'm forgetting. You can't have a lifetime career here in Greece and Rochester just working for Wegmans or whatever new fast food chain opens up. Costs are prohibitive these days. And that's why one of my partners in crime, Megan Farah, why we have gone to speak at Draft State Energy Plan at MCC. It's why we went to go speak over at City Hall for RG&E and NYSEG. Josh Jensen, he went and spoke too. And we had some discussions about solar. There's great ideas out there. In general, the plan we need for our future electricity is things working with redundancy. We can't get rid of gas. We can't get rid of nuclear. We can't just go to immediate solar and wind power. It's not going to get us there. These things need to work in tandem. If you do that, if you go with just one or two, you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. Moving on. More problems. Here we go. The current town board has voted for things that sabotage the way our government currently works or should work. One of those was in the transferring of properties that the town owns to Munipro. There was a public hearing where, there was a vote first at the board, where the board voted to abdicate their power to Scott Copey and have the public hearing heard by Scott Copey and an attorney from Munipro. In my opinion, Munipro is a massively huge problem. Towns have land development entities, and that's what Munipro is supposed to be. It was originally created for a way for Greece to digest properties that were given to them by the Eastman Kodak Company. And that's my understanding. Were those properties contaminated? I don't know. Want to go run some tests? Then we'll give you some keys on that. But no. Who do we have on Munipro currently? Well, Scott Copey. He was sent. He's going to be sent over there to head it up, I believe, in January. Kirk Morris, our current deputy supervisor. Mike Berry, formerly of the town board, and now he's currently on the planning board, to my knowledge. Mike Berry was there for a lot of the problematic votes. One of the reasons I'm going to tell you in a few minutes of why I support David DePonzio is David DePonzio was not put on the board by Bill Rylick, was not endorsed by Bill Rylick. And he wasn't, David DePonzio should not be blamed for a lot of the past votes that have caused the problems we're facing today. Munipro has not had a public disclosure statement since 2017 of their funds. What we do know is that, I believe the number is, each year, Munipro puts about $500,000 back into Greece funds. Do we have any idea what Munipro's account looks like? No. No. And although it's a private entity, it's still part of Greece. As residents, we need to know what's in there, and we need to know where that money goes. There are Munipro properties all over the town. They charge rent, they pay taxes. There is no transparency. Okay, moving on. Do I want to start with the candidates now? Yeah, I'll start with the candidates. Ward 1. We endorse David DePonzio. Of course, he is our ward member, but he took the time to come out on the property and walk with me and see what was going on. It's unfortunate that when he came out, we hadn't seen our test results come back positive yet. But since then, we've had conversations on and off, and even like right before board meetings, he'll let me know if there's some information coming out. I can ask him some questions like when Scott Copey said he was going to give you and the board members information that he's been communicating back with the DEC. Did he do it? And then I have Dave say, nope, still hasn't. Check with Bill Murphy. Nope, still hasn't. But either way, Dave and I, we do have a communication back and forth. And I believe in him. And I want to see what he can do, not living under the shadow of Bill Rylick. Ward 2, Spencer Bernard and Jim Leary. Spencer Bernard, that is who we're going with. I've spoken with Spencer. He grew up in a family business right here in Greece, and he has been the chief of staff for Pittsford. He has the experience. I am sorry, Jim. He's going to have newer ideas and be able to visibly see what direction we need to go in. It's not to say that Jim Leary isn't capable. There are people who are wondering about Jim Leary's allegiance. Is he a Democrat? Is he a Republican? Or is he out for himself? I will tell you from what I have seen, I do not believe he is a team player. And what I mean by that, I'm sure if residents reach out to him, he'll get back. But on the Democratic committee side, he seems to drop things off and not stick around. He needs to communicate more with his party. Honestly, I don't care if he's a Democrat or a Republican. I'm a Republican, and I do not vote straight party line, and I highly, highly, highly suggest none of you do either. The biggest problem we have with our politics and why we end up in this situation is because we'll get a vague postcard that says, I believe in freedom, I believe in low taxes, I believe in family values, vote for me. What does that actually say? Not much. You have to sit down and talk to the candidate. And that is why Ryan Murphy's interviews are so important. That is why and I hope all of you, are so offended that Bill Murphy would not sit down and do an interview with him. That Michael Bloomer would not sit down and do an interview with him. Oh, I'll get to Mikey in a minute. Let's move on and have some coffee, because it's too early for Jack Daniels. Ward 3, Amarette Miller and Michael Bloomer. For Ward 3, we support Amarette Miller. She's got amazing experience. She is fully approachable. She's got union endorsements that you can get buried in. I mean, her campaign is absolutely amazing. And she is a powerhouse. If I didn't know better, no, I do know better. You want to know where Amarette is right now, I bet? Out going door to door. Every free minute, she goes out and she goes door to door. She meets the constituents that are in her ward. This whole year has been a stressful time and struggle to do anything normal. My wife and I, we did not go on a vacation this year. Normally we at least go camping, simple small camping. But I did make the time to leave my Ward 1, which, by the way, I did tell David if he needed somebody to go door to door for stuff, let me know. He said he would. He didn't. That's okay. I would still go door to door for him. But I most certainly went door to door for Amarette. And obviously, while going door to door, well, we'll get to that in a minute. Michael Bloomer. From what I've seen this year in general, and it's been changing a little bit, Michael has been a silent board member. He'll say yay and nay, but not much else to say there. I don't believe Michael is tech savvy. As you can tell, he has no accounts online. The elephant in the room for him, and not referring to the party, Bill Rylick donated to his campaign recently. There's your red flag right there. You get that? We don't really know, well, I don't really know if Bill Rylick has connections to the Republican Party yet, still. I'm sure he's got people he talks to and works with, but he doesn't come to the committee meetings. I don't know if he left the committee by choice or they kicked him out. I don't know. But I do know it does not look good to accept money from Bill Rylick right now, no matter how small the amount is. Another thing to say about Michael Bloomer, he was the only candidate / incumbent running again who did not sign our pledge. Oh, he knew about it. Want to know what this did? This gave me ammo to go door to door in Michael's neighborhood and say, look what your guy did or didn't do. Is that right? Not to mention, I mean, this whole year, the candidates and the current board members have had the option to reach out to us. We're here. They know where we live. My phone number is public and out there. All you have to do is search me. Dave obviously is going to talk to us because he's our ward council person. Bill, well, he's running for town supervisor. I believe he has only come out here twice. He came out here with James Van Bretero and Megan, and we did a interview out here. And then he came out here, maybe a couple months ago, when they were doing some clearing over on the wetland for testing. They said it was only going to be a certain amount, weren't going to go through any wetland. Well, I must have come the wrong day, because the next day they did go through the wetland, and I have a little wetland ribbon now that was on the ground, along with a bunch of other ones when they got mowed down. But Bill came out there, and from what I heard afterwards, he basically had to be guilt-tripped coming out. Now, given, I believe he was out going door to door right before that, but it was a pretty big deal to just have equipment show up over there. The town and Scott Copey had said they would alert a representative in the neighborhood. Doesn't have to be me, but I assumed it probably would have been, with what was going on and test results and all that stuff. And yeah, no, I had to learn from a neighbor walking their dogs over there that, oh, they got equipment out there. Let me talk a little more about that day and the testing. Knowing from the 99 and 2003 tests what orchard chemicals are on that property, and the suspicion that Odenbach chemicals would be on there, would you do something to wet the soil so when you're mowing it all down, it wouldn't release into dust and blow across the community? Because that didn't happen. Vasile contractors were out there mowing all that stuff down. And that same day, at the same time, there was summer baseball teams, little kids over at Arcadia. And I remember standing in that field. I was there for hours without my coffee and without breakfast, watching that dust cloud blow over those kids. Does that make you furious at all? Knowing that there was something that could have been done to remediate right there and then the dispersion of those chemicals and those contaminants over children out having a fun summer baseball game in a field. Pisses me off. I guess it's bittersweet. The wind that day was not blowing directly towards the neighborhood. It was just blowing right at Arcadia's fields. But yeah, no, Scott came out there. We had DEC come out, and in the end, Scott's like, nope, this is everything we planned on carry on. Sent the DEC away. That would have been ECO Snowden, who we had gone to visit over at the DEC, and he came out to check it out, and Scott assured him everything would be okay. But more did get mowed down the next day, and I let ECO Snowden know that as well and sent him photos. All along this time, before I get to Ward 4, I want to elaborate a little more on this. All along this time, I had been talking to Jeff McCann, and he has been a really good confidant and advisor in some of the directions we have gone. Not full out suggestions, but reaffirming that we're taking the right steps. What came of that situation over there? Well, there was a report given to OSHA, and there was a report given to Monroe County Department of Health. So that's on record. Don't know if there's an investigation, because when there's an investigation, you don't hear until their findings come out. Okay. So we know Mikey Bloomer is out. Next, Ward 4, Rick Antelli Jr. And I hope if you haven't yet, go back and watch all the interviews Ryan has done with the candidates. Well, the candidates that wanted to be interviewed. Rick Antelli Jr. Obviously, his dad was a politician. I have heard rumor that Rick Antelli, his father, was unfairly removed from a town job. Does that have to do with Rylick? Who knows? Let somebody else research that. But Rick Antelli Jr., I finally got to meet him and thank him for signing this document, once again, at the Greece Republican picnic. There's no way about it. He's going to be a politician. He has experience with the fire department. That's great. He's got community service there. I believe he had said something about financials as well. But we had a brief discussion about the situation over here on Island Cottage. He aligns with us. I believe the team of Rick Antelli Jr., Spencer Bernard, Amaret Miller, David DePonzio, they are going to work amazingly together. I don't know what more I can say. That's our pick. You can ask questions, and I'll bring them up. But I'm gonna have some coffee. I'm gonna light a cigarette, and then we'll move on to town supervisor candidates. Didn't think I'd get to this, but here we go. And I got a yelling cat. His name is Zeus. You guys want to meet Zeus? Zeus, come here, Zeus. So Zeus used to be our neighbor's cat, but he liked our yard better. Oh my God, he's huge. So this is 22 pounds of Zeus. He growls all the time, but he is friendly, except to foxes. This is a cat that can actually take on foxes. He's no longer an outdoor cat, but yeah. Anyway, back to this. Okay, I'm sure you've been receiving flyers now in the mail from Jeff McCann, and it should be no surprise. Today's flyer has me and my wife on it. Why is that? Well, as I said, during this time, I know Bill Murphy's been running his campaign, but Jeff has solidly been there for questions this entire journey. As soon as he found out what was going on, he reached out to local and state contacts and has been there to see how things develop. He has come out on record saying he opposes the build over there, especially without more testing. And it took everybody a long time to admit even the idea of contamination. But I think there's more than enough evidence that yes, there's a problem over there. And over these past couple weeks, not just because of the election coming up, I talk to Jeff and text Jeff just about every single day. There's questions you guys are going to have about his loyalty to a party. Jeff and I had a discussion early on, because don't get me wrong, I have questions about the Auberger years as well. As you may know, Jeff was deputy supervisor during that time. But I also know some of the things Jeff was working on at the time. I asked Jeff straight up, what are your plans after being town supervisor? Want to know what his answer was? This is it. He's going to be town supervisor, get the town back on track. Hopefully make this town boring. I mean, make it function like a well-oiled machine that is also boring and not something we have to worry about. Don't get me wrong, I want you to check in. It is your civil duty to check in on government, to participate in government. That's why there's a high school class called PIG, participation in government. Without participation, and I know time is rare for anything. It allows government to run wild and do whatever it wants. We don't want to be in that situation again. I asked Jeff if he'd run for legislature, and he said, no, this is it. What is Jeff? Jeff is not extreme. Jeff is not extreme right, and Jeff is not extreme left. Jeff has the support of both sides. And that's where our government as a whole needs to be. Bill Murphy's ads, if you talk with Bill one-on-one, he says he wants unity. When your attack ads come out and you buy into the national politics, you're buying into an us versus them and a hate scenario. If you look at the numbers of the town of Greece, the Republicans are dying out. The majority of registered voters in Greece are Democrat, by a bunch. Doesn't mean they'll show up, but they are. And you can't forget about the independents and the unregistered. So when you make a campaign ad that attacks a majority party, whether for good reason or not in your mind, you are alienating the voters who are going to put you into office. And then I have to ask you, did you intend to lose, Bill Murphy? Or did you think that campaign tactic was going to work? It would seem right now that Bill Murphy does not see Ryan Murphy as a friend. That ship may be sailed. I think Ryan has been more than fair with all of the candidates. Ryan and I have had the discussion of why Ryan cannot come out and say who he supports. Christian Garzone calls him a great citizen journalist. And I don't think a lot of you would disagree with that, because that's why you tune in day after day and week after week to see what he has to say and to see what news comes out, what questions come out in our town that need to be addressed. Ryan is more than fair, and he does not corner people. Bill chose not to do an interview with him. Some say it's because, well, and I'll say David didn't as well. And it might be the idea of there could be questions that they can't answer because they're currently on town board. Well, it's easy enough to just say, we'll skip those questions. What the other candidates saw before they did their interview was the list of the questions. They knew what they were going to be up against. You want to know what's really unfair? Jeff McCann sees these questions being formed right now. And if you haven't formed your questions right now, go over to Ryan's site, Grease Uncovered, on Facebook, and add some questions for Jeff in there. And Jeff is going to be able to answer all of those questions for you. Why won't Bill? Ask yourself that. Hope I didn't lose myself again, but I might have. Transparency. So I got to do some transparency for myself. First, my wife and I, Casey and I, donated $200 to Jeff's campaign, and we also donated $200 to Amaret's campaign. And that was recent. I technically donated $25 to the Greece Republican Party. I was hoping to eat it in cheeseburgers, but I only got one cheeseburger because the rest of the time I was talking. That's one of the thank yous I forgot earlier. I would like to thank at least 1/3 of the Greece Republican Committee. They have supported us in this island cottage endeavor as well. There are amazing people over there who need guidance. I've been to 4 of their meetings, 3 in the spring and 1 recently. I think Casey told me earlier that I was going to need to address this. I believe that the Greece Republican Party needs new leadership. They are divided and they need to be united. They're not there right now. And that might be why we're ending up in this situation. I believe that both parties should be working together at a table and coming together to come up with ideas that benefit the entire community. That's why this party system sucks balls so bad. You got to have candidates that are willing to come to the table. I have more to say on that, but I'm not going to say it right now. Transparency. Let's talk money. Our first lawsuit as a neighborhood committee was just around $10,000. And that was when we first went after the town for violating seeker. And we lost that lawsuit because of timing, yet it was still something we believed we needed to do to get it on the record that yes, this is a violation. We are prepared now that if in November the next round goes through and they decide to try to push the sale of this to Munipro and then to Vasile, we have 2 more lawsuits ready to go. And what those have cost us so far, $7,500. That's the retaining and write-up fees. And then in the off the corridor in the waiting room out of state, we have a hydrology expert, well-known, well-accredited, who was a $10,000 purchase to get up here. And then, of course, there's other expenses on top of that. And they just keep on adding up past that. So, yes, there's money into this. And we're going to keep on fighting. We're hoping we don't have to much longer. We're hoping that both supervisor candidates see, and maybe one candidate who might be angry at us right now for not supporting him, we'll see that there's a bigger issue than who gets in with this property over here, because this has the potential to hurt so many more generations of people, and we need to find this out. I never got a chance to mention my other spiel about signage. Round Pond Creek, and Buck Pond. Don't fish in there. Don't swim in there. Don't hunt. It's contaminated. The actual DEC and Army Corps of Engineers and all their contracted companies have said the water is contaminated, the fish is contaminated. Their last result was it needs future investigation, but they confirmed. The Odenbach plume is there. Those chemicals went and they dumped. They do not dissipate. I mean, look at it this way. You got 30 or 40-year-old TCE coming out. It's a vapor. It gets in stuff. We're talking 30 or 40 years ago and it's still there. And then the DEC on Odenbach found let me do another review. TCE, trichloroethylene. The safe amount, the reporting limit of 5 micrograms per liter. That's your cutoff. They found one over there, 46,000 micrograms per liter. And then they lost it. Want to know why? It means they tested it 3 times, they found it once at that level. That means it floated somewhere else, because that's what it does. It moves. And then it also drops because TCE is heavier than water. So push it up, drop it. Push it up, drop it. Push it up, drop it. We're seeing more tree die off, and they said, oh, well, tree die-off doesn't signify that there's contamination over there. Well, then look at the DEC results when they were also testing surface water. After we found our results, I talked to Bill Rylick after a board meeting, and he was in a rush to go somewhere, but turned to me and said, well, five micrograms per liter is perfectly safe for drinking. I bet he was eating his words in a couple days after that when the DEC came out with their report, and just like feet off of our results, they found them higher than we did, way higher. Still want to drink that, Bill? I don't think so. Anyway, I talked too much, my cigarette went out. Jeff. Back to Jeff. He has real plans. He hates doing attack ads. I walked with him in our neighborhood. We went door to door and talked to people. He genuinely cares, to the point of where if he goes up to the door with one of these and wants to meet someone and they're not home, he takes the time to write a personal message on the card and sign it. I think he said he's lived in Greece since he was either 6 or 8 years old. That's nearly a lifetime. I'm a lifelong resident of Greece, so I get that. With that comes, you get to see how this town has progressed or fallen. I feel like right now we are propped up. We have problems with crime. We have problems with violence. We have problems with employment. We have problems. We have so many problems. And of course, we have problems with how our government is run. I believe Jeff's resume and his experience and those that support him in current government, both Democrat and Republican and conservative, are going to work together to repair our town. What do I want out of this? I want two things out of this. I want a functional and boring government. I want, well, three things. I want more of you out there to participate. I know not much of Gen Z is on Facebook. Like I said, I'm 44 years old. You out there who are younger, it's time to step up. It's time to get involved. And here's the kicker for you. If you're looking for a job right now, you can't find one, try coming and working for government. Invest yourself in research of how your local government works. Because if you want a safe place to live, if you want to sleep comfortably and have a family, if you want to relax and have lemonade on your front porch and talk to your neighbors, if you want your neighborhood, well, as I do, to be similar to Mayberry from the Andy Griffith Show, you have to do it yourself. We can't all redline. We can't all deal with the stresses that we have every day now. Does every day get worse? How do you make it better? The answer is community. You need to meet your neighbors. You need to commiserate together. You need to be able to come to a table and discuss things in a civil way and come up with a plan. You need to be prepared together. You need to do this for every neighborhood in the town of Greece. And if you do it right, that message will spread. If you cooperate and unify with your neighbors in Greece, that message will spread to Gates. That message will spread to Irondequoit, to Henrietta, Brighton, Webster. Eventually, you'll get a unified county. Monroe County. That'll spread to Steuben County, Jefferson County, Cattaraugus County. After and after and after, you spin it up. New York State, Vermont, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania. That is how you get real change. It's unity. You can't spell community without unity. To end things on a light note, and I hope he doesn't hate me for saying this. Like I say, I have to have a little comedy. So in my final words to you, the public out there, we support Jeff McCann. And for a brighter future for Greece and a better tomorrow for our friends and family, I say, yes, we McCann. Have a good rest of your day, a good rest of your weekend, and leave those lights on for the trick-or-treaters coming later this month. Thank you.